I just find that outside is where I like to be, pretty much for everything.
It's gorgeous out here.
Yeah.
This is God's country.
It is.
As it were.
And the thing is, it's kind of a place you can always get to. And each season's different. And it's not that far. You know, it's close. So I find it a good place. And it's usually not too many people around.
Mm-hmm.
I like to go to Tyler Park. Tyler Park is awesome.
Yeah.
There's some really neat trails with a gorge. Someday maybe I can show you those trails.
Yeah. I'll have to get my hiking boots on for that.
You need hiking boots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think the Nikes are going to handle that.
Well, it is rough terrain.
Yeah.
This is gentle.
Yeah, this is just a wooded walk.
Yeah.
Not
too bad.
Which is nice. And the overlook, that's amazing.
It is. And I don't think there's a lot of them around. I know the Bowman's Tower, which is over here, you could probably see it from the rock. But unless you go up the tower, you're not going to get the overlook that you get here.
Right.
Because of the trees. Now you go in the winter, when there's no foliage, you can see all around.
Right.
Yeah.
See all the way in Ohio.
Yeah. And you can actually drive up to that.
Right.
I like the fact that the only way you're going to be up here is if you take that walk. So you don't get a lot of people up here that don't appreciate it.
That's true.
You're not going to walk all the way up
there.
there.
Effort in getting
a little bit.
Just enough.
And then again, you know, I'm sure you could find it. It's not hard to find, but it is good to have someone show you the first time.
Oh, I absolutely agree.
And then hopefully, you know, you would want to share it with someone, and then they would want to share it with someone because it's a great place.
And it is.
Yeah. If you find a place in nature where you get restorative, meditative, this is it for me.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Any woods will do, but this is a little special.
That's one of those reasons you always do the Tai Chi out in nature. To get back in touch with everything. You're reminded of how you're a part of the whole.
I like the way you did it barefoot to connect to the earth. And it really does. It connects you.
Yeah, I agree.
Barefoot.
You know, it's funny, and before I did that, I forgot how many years it had been since I wore bare feet outside, let alone actually stepped into the grass with it. And that was something we did all the time as kids,
right?
But you forget about, you know, once you get into school and go to college, or you're in the military, your feet are booted the whole time unless you're cleaning them, changing your
socks. I didn't think they had any barefoot operations when I was in there. You needed heavy-duty boots.
That's right. We got this thing when you muscle on in Verdun, leave the boots. Yeah, it's not going to work.
No. You need them boots. That's a very important part of the uniform. But it's nice to take your shoes off and do it. Yeah,
and just feel like the individual blades of grass at the bottom of your feet, getting in between your toes, feel the soil once again.
Soil, good old soil.
You know?
Nothing wrong with good old soil.
And you do feel connected.
Yeah. That's where I feel a connection in that river. Kind of grew up on the river, and whenever I get in the river in a kayak especially, or a raft or whatever, it just feels like a good connection to the earth. It's a nice part, the river, you know. And it does the traveling for you. You just go with it, and that kind of relates to Tai Chi, right?
Absolutely.
That flow, it goes with it.
Oh, everything
it really
is
connects.
water related.
Yeah, it connects.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things that I find helps when you're doing Tai Chi to have a river or water of some sort, as long as it's moving water.
Right.
You don't want stagnant water.
Stagnant water, no.
But when you're around moving water, and I'm not saying just turn your kitchen faucet on and you'll be fine, but with that moving water, as you look out on it, you understand what you're shooting for at that point. You can actually see it out in nature. If I say, I need you to move like water, there's the water. You have no better teacher, no better example to emulate other than that.
Right. That is in action,
Yeah.
showing the flow in action. That's why standing out on that levee, which I don't think we can do today.
No,
but we
it's
can go.
definitely-
We could go to it. If that water's over, it wouldn't work. But it gets you right in the middle,
Yeah.
and you could see it. It's right there, and it's clean,
Yeah.
and it's flowing. But maybe another day. I mean, if you want to go down there, because there's the canal on this side,
Mhm.
which is flowing,
Mhm.
and the river.
Oh, is the canal filled now?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
And we can get right on the river there without going out on the levee.
Yeah.
And it's right on the way. It's up to you if you wanted to go today. You could get this, but right on the river.
Right.
There's a couple of real good spots there. But I don't think we're going to get out on that levee today.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I think we've got great stuff for today,
Mhm.
certainly.
Mhm.
And yeah, no. So when I was here, I took the family up to New Hope back in, I want to say May. It was one of those really nice days that we had, and the canal was still dry. It's sort of wet, but nothing to write home
it was very
about.
low.
Yeah. And it
Well,
was actually kind of icky looking.
This is a different canal. We're
Oh,
in
okay.
Jersey, so
Oh, okay.
that's on this side. So it's
Oh,
different.
it's over here.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful.
Okay.
It's really
Yeah, it might be worth a gander then.
well. The thing is, it's a real nice walk. There's a canal path, and it takes you right. The river's here and the canal's here, so it's kind of like a real good water space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, now that we're having this conversation, I'm thinking we should do this outside. Maybe not in the yoga studio, but actually outside. Because Bristol's got some great areas to it.
We got to get you to the lagoon there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that has a gazebo, and it's right 2 miles from the studio there.
Yeah.
So it's really close. That might be a good spot
Maybe.
to look at.
Yeah, maybe next week we'll take a gander.
Okay.
Assuming we do this next week.
Well, it's really nice to have the studio after class too.
Absolutely.
I
Because
mean,
then you just pull the chairs over, we sit, and there we
yeah,
are.
I mean that's very convenient there.
And so maybe we do that normally, and then every once in a while we take a field trip and film out and about. I think that would work quite well.
I know Kim likes to take us after class, or even for class, on a walk around Bristol down to the river. And I don't know, it's just something magical about it. But it's a funny picture. It's Kim and all us old veterans. It's like a duck and the baby's following. It's
There it
like
is.
I wanted to get a picture of that, and I tried, but it just, I mean, you had to be standing over here, and I was in the.
You're in the mix.
I was in the mix, but just to see that, it seems like a funny picture. To 5 or 6 guys following, or just like a duck, and we're the baby's following.
That's funny.
It is funny.
That is funny.
Yeah.
That's a great studio.
Yeah. Well, she even had the one guy bring his guitar. And we sat there and he sang, and we did poses.
Really?
Yeah, it was
That's
fun.
pretty cool.
It was fun. So she gets the outdoor connection.
Yeah. That's so incredibly important. It's funny because most of my classes now are inside, despite the fact that when I started teaching, they were all outside. All of them were outside. I started in April of 2016, I want to say. And yeah, April 2016. And I was frigid. It was so cold. It was like April 4th, I want to say. And March had been extremely warm that year. So I'm thinking, all right, we're going to do this in April. We're going to start. I'm going to put a thing out online on Meetup and say, hey, we're going to do Tai Chi in the morning.
Glen Ford? Was this?
No,
Glen
this
Ford?
was Pleasant Hill.
Pleasant
So
Hill.
where the hatchery is over by Maggie's.
Oh, okay.
On the Delaware.
Okay, yeah.
And I showed up day one. Nobody was there. Nobody came. It was like, uh-oh, I may have made a mistake. Day two, I got my first student, but all the way up until I want to say as late as December, we were training outside. We were absolutely training outside. And then I think I had one class that was working with the city's Parks and Rec, teaching down in Mayfair. And we get to get to December, and it's starting to get cold. So one of my students, who actually moved away, she's an awesome student, called around to places and found spin. And here we are, going on 2 years. And but after that, like, all my classes started being indoors.
Well, in the winter in Philly, that
Makes
does
sense.
make sense.
Makes sense. But then that translates to being indoors all year round unless you break it up on purpose.
My
Right.
initial picture of Tai Chi is in the park,
Yeah.
outside with a group.
Yeah.
I said, Tai Chi, okay, that would be outside. But I get it, in the winter, you got to do it inside, and outside in the winter is not for everyone.
No,
I mean, and I know, being from the military, that you have to be prepared for being outside. Whether it's 120 or if it's 20 below, you go outside.
Oh, absolutely.
But not everyone is in that mindset.
I remember at Fort Drum, they were giving away badges for, the 20 and below, the 30 below, the 40 below club. That, if you went out into the field and the temperature hit rock bottom at some point.
You're talking bivouac.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. In that 20 below.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh.
But they do equip you.
Yeah,
but still, it's not comfortable.
No. Not when it's snowed and there's 4 feet of snow on the ground. You've got to not only dig your trench into the snow, but you've got to dig it into the ground another 2 feet. And the ground's completely frozen. You're like, oh, God.
But that didn't matter. You had to dig.
You just do it.
Ugh.
Just do it.
They didn't make accommodations for frozen ground.
We were the accommodation.
You had an entrenching tool.
That's right.
We
did. We got smart. We bought, as a unit, a bunch of shovels, and we would take it out there and use that to break up the ground. And work smart, not hard. That was sort of...
Yeah, but frozen ground is kind of like
frozen
a brick.
ground no matter what.
It's like a brick. It's like really hard.
And up in upstate New York, that's like tundra at that point. It's ridiculous.
Did you get to be there in the summer, though? I imagine it's great in the
I
summer.
did, and it's hot. It's, 94 degrees,
right.
Humid. It's really no different than here. It might be a little cooler, but it doesn't make up for just the meanness of the winter when that shows up. So.
Is that anywhere near Niagara Falls? Fort Drum? I'm not.
No, it's so if Niagara Falls is off towards Michigan, Fort Drum is closer to Montreal.
Okay,
so you're where the Kingston area is in Canada. There's sort of like a direct shot to Kingston, and then Montreal, I think, is maybe a couple of hours.
So you're more east.
Yeah.
But did you ever get to Niagara Falls?
I didn't. Not when I was there. No.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Like an outdoor thing. And they have the town and all that stuff, which is very cool.
Yeah.
But then they have the escarpment and the gorge that you can walk down, and it's just awe-inspiring. It's this high or higher.
Oh, wow.
And then there's the Niagara River down there, and you can walk down to it. And it's quite a walk. And then you got to come back up. But there's actually like little stone shelters that people built out of the stone. And it's really
that's
awesome.
cool.
Yeah, it's a great place to visit. And a lot of things to do if you like to be outside.
Right.
Of course, I went in the summer. But they showed it in the winter. And again, it's beautiful, but it's different. I think I'd prefer summer, but good place to go.
The water's different up there too, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It's like a blue green. It's beautiful. And there's like so much history and islands and things you can walk to. They built bridges, and a lot of industry was there.
Yeah.
But they put the kibosh on it because they were ruining
I mean, that's amazing hydropower right there.
Yeah.
Looking to go.
And there still are some plants, but the way I understand it, back in the turn of the century, everybody wanted to go up there because it was a booming place. But it kind of took away from the beauty of it, so they got rid of a lot of the industry.
Yeah. It's funny you bring up Niagara, because we were talking about the series as we were coming up. And I had to do a ton of research on what the future would look like. And one of the things that came up in the research was Niagara Falls is slowly eroding itself back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's still there in 150 years when the story picks up, but not much of it. It's starting to.
Right, that rushing water is wearing it. Yeah, it's changing.
Yep.
They say they can actually affect the flow of water there. They have some kind of system where they can turn it up and down. Yeah.
Huh.
And from 100 years ago, it's a lot less than it was 100 years ago.
Oh, the rapids, the actual waterfall.
It's still awesome, but it was even more awesome back then, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, I can imagine just the raw power of it.
They're diverting some for drinking water and some for hydroelectric.
Yeah.
So they're diverting some of it. But there's a place there. It's called the Point of No Return, and you can actually go out on these islands, and there's a sign. Once you get past that point, you're pretty much going to go over the falls, and that's the end of it. Although people have survived.
Really?
Oh yeah, there's a museum there that shows most don't.
Yeah.
But some people have survived. I guess if you hit it a certain way and you're in the right thing, you can survive it. I wouldn't want to find out, but yeah.
I would think the biggest, the impact, of course, is going to be insane, but then the rapids are going to pull you under, I would think. Right,
the hydraulic of it, which happens right out here on that wing dam. If you go to a certain spot at a certain water level, the hydraulic will hold you under.
Yeah.
So you have to know how to navigate that wing dam. You just don't go over the side because you can get stuck in that hydraulic.
Right.
You got to go here and keep going that way.
Right.
It could be dangerous.
Okay.
Yeah, but people have survived Niagara Falls. And there's a museum to show. And people are all the time trying to do it.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure.
But that sign, it says point of no return. That's enough for me. I ain't going to pass there.
that takes a certain level of gutsiness.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
To see the sign and then still continue on.
Well, people build these vehicles to do it in.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. And they have them there, the ones that survive. Starting out with a barrel and going on up to look like a spaceship.
Yeah. Trying to catch all the hydrodynamics and
and going at the right spot. You got a slim chance that maybe you're going to talk about it.
True.
Yeah.
That's like those guys that do the speedboat racing, try to set the surface water record or whatever.
Right.
It's something like every, I forget, it's like 99 out of 100 people that try to break the world record have died. Or something of that nature. Like, the death toll is insane.
Because a little ripple could set it.
You're done.
And then,
Or because the ship's integrity, if it doesn't hold up, and it can't be all that heavy and reinforced because you're trying to set a speed record. So, yeah, the ship's flipping, falling apart, engines exploding, you name it. It's insane. Absolutely insane. They should have stuck to Tai Chi. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. That reminds me of the world's fastest Indian. They made a movie out of it. Where this guy took an Indian motorcycle from the 30s, and he took everything off it, filed down the tires so there was just a little bit of rubber on there to make it lighter to get the fastest speed. It's called the world's fastest, and he did. And he was on it in a bathing suit. He didn't want to wear any clothes for weight. I think barefoot.
Yeah.
And laying on it, and just did everything possible to make it fast. And finally did break the record. There's a movie. It's really worth watching. The world's fastest Indian.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
so what you can do with
that's stick-to-itiveness.
Yeah. Yeah. It took him years, and he was actually taking the rubber off the tires to make them lighter.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's inherently dangerous all into itself.
Yeah, on the Bonneville Salt Flats. And,
Oh, yeah, that's where everybody goes to break the land records, right? Yeah. Not too much chance you're going to run into something out there.
No. There's a story about these guys in the desert ride their motorcycles blindfolded because there's nothing to hit.
Wow.
Could you imagine going, 80, 90 miles an hour blindfolded? But it's in the desert and there's nothing there to hit. But I couldn't imagine doing it. But people do that. That must be the adrenaline rush. Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's I have a hard time doing like Golden Rooster with a blindfold on, let alone actually trying to break a speed record.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I would imagine that would change the whole dynamic.
Changes everything.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because you're no longer spatially locked into anything.
Oh, yeah, you can.
And what you end up having to do is you have to internalize everything at that point. So you're no longer thinking about your limbs so much as you're thinking about that straight line all the way up to the crown of your head and making sure your form is there. You're checking in on your ears, shoulders, hips, down to the heels. And it really is just kind of envisioning that tower and keeping it straight. Because the moment you close your eyes, you're going to start to wobble.
Yeah, you kind of lose that.
Because normally one of the best ways to keep your balance is to look down at about a 45-degree angle, or if you pick a spot on the wall, you can do that.
Right.
Yeah, take your eyesight away, and your equilibrium goes off very quickly.
So if you pick a spot on the wall, that helps your balance. But looking down, same thing?
Yep, 45. Just target your eyes 45 degrees. Because the thing that I find with locking on one point on the wall, what happens if you move?
Right.
You've got to actually pull yourself off of alignment in order to stick on that one point. You don't necessarily want to do that. And as you know, like if you're driving, if you ever piloted a plane, if your eyes go in a certain direction, you start to drift in that direction.
Right.
So with Tai Chi, if you're going to be moving back and forth, then there's really no time that we're just standing in one place other than maybe the 8 for Repulse the Monkey. And even that's not going to help you because you're on 2 feet and you're turning your waist with your head. So looking at one spot doesn't necessarily help. But looking down at a 45-degree angle, it doesn't matter where you are, you're just looking down. You're not focusing on any one point. You're just looking, and then you're down and you come back up.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know why that works, but it does. I keep telling myself I'm going to Google it. If anybody knows why that works, leave it in the comments.
I'm sure there's some kind of formula to that.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. It's something with your balance, or I don't know. But it works. I leave that up to smarter people than me to figure out why it works. You know. It's actually really nice out today.
It is.
In the sun, it's hot.
Little breeze, and the bugs all went away. And
I know. Oh, do they not like me anymore? I guess they figured out I wasn't food. At least not yet. At least not yet. Oh, man. So, yeah, this is very nice. Very nice indeed. So what current events or what you've seen going on out there in the world?
Well, our president.
Oh. The Yang's Yang.
With Amoroso. It's like, do we really have to reduce our government to TV, a TV apprentice? Really? I mean, it's really reducing our government. There was some integrity there not too long ago, and it seemed to go out the window. That is not the place for our president to be saying and doing. You know what I mean? This is taking away from our government here.
You get no argument there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, this is the main news that he called her names and she accusing him. This should not be. We have important issues in the world we need to address.
We've got a space force to build.
We got Space Force, which is a little bit of a reach, but okay. I did
literally and figuratively.
I did hear it explained that someone has to get the control out there with in space.
Yeah.
So okay, so maybe we're stepping up. I mean, it is. I don't think we're quite ready for that, but apparently we're
I think that's just deflection, but
it is. I think so too. It's going to be the 5th branch of the military.
Something
now.
like that.
Yeah.
A brand new branch.
But I had it explained to me. There's kind of a good reason that someone takes control out there before someone else does. I forget exactly what it was. But
well,
Where do I sign up?
So that's what I was thinking. I was like, let's go down. Sign me up for the Space Force. I want to see the moon up close. Well, there are legitimate concerns.
Yeah.
Like, if someone were to, so there's a critical mass in space of satellites and debris. And at some point, if someone were to knock out enough satellites, or just the right satellite, you could create a domino effect that could knock out the entire GPS grid. Or something
Plus,
of that nature.
other grids
Oh, yeah.
are electric grid. Right.
And,
that was it.
Yeah.
So it was something to protect the satellites.
yeah.
We just can't have that getting knocked out by a terrorist.
Oh, my God. If, just in theory, the idea of a Space Force, on the one hand, developing all that would be insanely costly, and I don't think we're there yet.
No.
But the forces that you're playing with at that point, the speeds, and the type of influence, gravity, and the centrifugal force of the Earth, and all that starts to play in. I was watching, I think this was like a History Channel documentary or something of that nature, where they were just dropping metal rods, 6-foot metal rods, and you could take out a city, basically, just because it's coming from so far away,
right?
And it's traveling so fast, and
when
with the
hits,
density of the
it would
rod,
make like a bomb effect.
Oh, yeah, absolutely!
Oh, yeah.
It's like it's creating a comet in
right.
its own right,
which would destroy
a big enough comet, yeah. And with the right tech, you could be accurate enough that if you wanted to hit a bunker, you could just drop an iron rod. Iron rods are cheap,
Sure.
So you're talking about super danger. But the other part, not that this administration cares about the international community, but there was a treaty, I think it was signed in 1974, and I could be wrong on that, but sometime after World War II, where the UN and all the nations in it collectively came together and said that space cannot be owned or utilized. It is the common heritage of all the beings of the Earth. Which leads to the question, well, doesn't the Earth float in space? But I digress, right? So because they didn't want, corporations gaining a foothold out there and mining it and destroying whatever, what have you, kind of like we've done down here. And you don't want space wars. You just don't.
Right.
Because you're dealing with insane, you don't even need nuclear bombs anymore. You're just dropping metal rods. Or you can do launches from the moon or something of that nature. And what are you going to do? I mean, if you think back to, not think back, but learning about Sputnik, right? You were on the team, right?
That created Sputnik? Sure.
But no, when Sputnik goes up in the air,
right.
All of a sudden the United States was completely paranoid that we were going to get attacked.
It did create paranoia, and that started the space race.
Right.
Yeah.
And make no mistake about it that we were the first to the moon, but our reasons for going to the moon were defense. It wasn't, our pioneering spirit and manifest destiny. It was, we have to outdo the Soviets.
Yes, I think it was a continuation of the space race, but they didn't present it that way.
No.
They presented it as, a great...
It's no longer presented that way. But if you look back at Kennedy's speech, after he says we're going to the moon, or just before, he talks about the necessity of doing this in order to defend the country against the Soviet Union. And that's why after we got a puppy coming over.
There he comes. Hey there.
Oh, we got a puppy.
Hey there. Oh,
we have our first guest star.
Oh, the pup.
Our first guest star. So yeah, with the
well, they're really thinking ahead with this Space Force, and you got Elon Musk and SpaceX. I mean, they're going into space now. I mean, and I guess someone has to control it, but I think it's a long way out. I mean, like you say, how are we going to get up there? But leave it to private industry. Elon Musk.
It's so close and so far away.
Yeah.
Well, but here's the thing. Here's the thing with that, and it's one of the reasons that you want the government involved with this. Elon Musk has to turn a profit. Mm-hmm. He's got to find some sort of profitability to sending things out in space. And governments don't, right? Governments invest in infrastructure. They build. The government didn't make any money putting the GPS satellites in the sky.
That was for the military's use, and it wasn't to be sold to the public, but eventually it did get sold.
Right.
I mean, somebody made a lot of money, and then it went obsolete.
Correct.
I mean, we still use the GPS system, but now it's on your phone. You don't have to buy a GPS.
Oh, yeah. Well,
I mean, that went obsolete
so fast. But we're still using the same
We're still
satellites,
using it.
right? So we're using the infrastructure. So
right.
private industry
satellite.
created the GPS that you used to put on your dashboard. Well, those went the way of the dinosaur.
But quick, too. I mean,
yeah.
they were the biggest thing ever. Now you can be navigated anywhere. And now that pretty much they're obsolete. Like that.
Apple and Samsung, the way they just jumped on these things, and the moment the smartphone became a thing, I mean, you want to talk about future tech in the palm of your hands. Here it is.
It is.
You know?
It is. But who's going to be the leader? Of course, right now, Samsung and Apple.
Yeah.
But there's another company in China.
In China, yeah.
That guy that's supposed to have a better product.
Supposedly.
But we're not allowing it here yet.
Right.
But eventually it's going to come here.
Well, they just got a, $300 billion boost or something like that, or $300 million, something of that nature, thanks to some drug deal that Trump made with Xi Jinping.
For that company?
Yeah, for that company.
For that guy, yeah. Well, it's an improvement on what we have, I think, from what I understand.
You know, you wonder if we all just work together to make the best smartphone or next-gen phone, or just across the board, the best toothpaste, the best body soap, and we were all just working together instead of competing against one another.
Right.
You can have competition within the same team.
Well, competition does make for better products.
You're right, to a degree. Because let's say I make Tai Chi shoes that help you fly, and you make Tai Chi shoes that turn you into water. Right?
Okay.
Well, if we combined our efforts together, the customer would then have shoes that help them fly and turn into water. Versus, I either have to fly or turn into water, which then causes these two camps, you know.
Makes sense.
Flying versus floating. And that's about the most silly, ridiculous thing I could come up with on the spot.
Let's combine our talents to make better for mankind.
Right.
It's no longer just one country against the other. It's mankind.
Right.
It's coming to a global.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all of humanity.
Right.
Think about wide receivers on a football team or in the secondary, right? So you got your safeties, your corners. They're competing against one another, but they're on the same team, right? They're competing for interceptions. They're competing for tackles. They're competing for catches. They're competing for. There's all different things they're competing for because they're also getting paid and all that kind of thing, all right? But they're also working together to a common goal.
The winning game.
Right.
Right.
So it's not that competition is bad. I mean, now this is where we're going into yin and yang here. Cooperation and competition can exist copacetically, as you will, in a synchronistic way, that it actually works. And by fighting each other, by competing against each other instead of cooperating in competition, we're actually holding ourselves back in quite a bit of ways.
I haven't looked at it that way, but yeah, now that you mention it, yeah, that's so true. Yeah. That's thinking outside the box.
Yeah, it's a little yin-yang. Yeah. Thinking in the circle.
Well, yeah, well, it's using the principles to come up with a better idea. And yeah, there you go.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things. That's when you tell... One of the things that always to be said that is very controversial is when someone says... so my version of this, my iteration, is that society is an illusion. Right? Now, the first thing anybody says is, well, you want to go back to the caveman days? No, not at all. I love this view. We wouldn't have these views without the bridges, without the houses, the architecture. We wouldn't have this clearing. We wouldn't have these shoes and clothes, and we wouldn't be able to do this. And so I like all that. But by an illusion, it means I recognize the fact that outside of our minds, it doesn't exist. It's imaginary. It really is. There is no such thing. The sun doesn't shine on the United States any brighter than it does on Canada, depending on the time of year. But at the border itself, or Mexico, if you're on the Rio Grande, the sun shines the exact same on the Mexican side as it does the United States.
It does.
Right. So the universe doesn't recognize the United States as an entity. or India or China or anything like that. You look at Russia. So Russia's the biggest country in the world. Well, nobody wants Siberia. So that deer, that caribou that's out there in Siberia has no idea that it's a part of the nation state of Russia. You know, only we do. Hell, listen.
That's true.
In Afghanistan and Iraq, in the time that I was there were people that didn't know they were a part of a country named Afghanistan or Iraq.
Really,
they're nomadic,
right?
Or they're tribal, and that is the nation they're a part of in their minds. No different than the Iroquois or the Navajo here. Yeah,
they were tribal.
That's it.
They're tribal people.
Kandahar, Baghdad certainly recognized the fact that they were a part of this geopolitical yada yada yada. But a lot of the people that are just hanging out there in the mountains, they don't know, and they don't care.
The people, they didn't care
they don't care.
Yeah, and they didn't want to be involved in this
they just
big conflict that's still going on.
Just want to gather and eat. That's it, and live their lives.
A simple life without all this. Yeah.
And it's not to say that, because I am all for progress, human progress, technological progress, but society should work for humanity, not for humanity to work for it. Because once we started working for society, that was it. We lost the game. We forgot what was going on. It's no different than Tai Chi when you're going into a form. If you're trying to think about the entire form itself, you'll lose it. But if you just stay right where it's at that time, you recognize the form not as a whole, complete thing, but as the individual movements within each individual movement, then it takes on a whole different craft. You start to understand what that form is about, right? At least from a physical standpoint, and mental and rooting and all that kind of thing. So the same thing with society. When you recognize that we created society in order to better ourselves, because listen, I don't want to get eaten by the big cats, all right? And there hasn't been a lot of, well, there was that thing out in Washington, but not many people are getting eaten by big cats these days. Whereas anthropologically, tons of our ancestors got eaten by big cats.
Yes.
We were a healthy part of a balanced breakfast for a while.
We were part of the food chain. And we changed that.
We did.
We changed it.
Which is funny. I was listening, audio booking, a book called, I think this one was Homo Deus, right? So the man god, if you will, right? And one of the things, this was done by Harari. He's a Israeli professor, a contemporary. He's alive today. I think he's in his mid-40s or something. He attributes humanity's erratic behavior to the fact that we went from being somewhere in the middle of the menu to the top without earning our way. Right? We picked up a rock one day and we threw it. And that drove off something. So we continued to pick up rocks. But then one day we figured we could actually hunt with that rock. And that these sticks could help us, beat that animal down and gain its nutrients. Okay. Well, we go from being eaten to throwing rocks, to sticks, to bow and arrows, to clothing, to cities, to armies, all within a span of a couple of 100,000 years, right? A couple of million years. But when you consider that the lion evolved over tens of millions of years, and probably from something that was left over after the dinosaurs that was already fairly a predator once we split off from the mammals. So our paranoia, our bravery that mimics the paranoia inside of us, that's all sort of an unfortunate inheritance that we've picked up because we didn't evolve into this. We took it.
and we're making them extinct.
Right.
How many animals went extinct because of our bad
It's
behavior?
hard to say, but yeah.
A lot of
A
them.
lot.
And they're, even now they're going.
Hell yeah.
The rhino, the tiger,
Oh,
we're destroying all that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, we just don't, so here's another example of that. So humanity exists for a long time at a certain technological level. When you consider the 18th century, consider their technological advancement to the 12th century or the 2nd century, other than gunpowder, and you have the printing press and things that pop up. But, the 18th century, you didn't have massive infrastructures of running water like the Romans did. So there were times in history where certain things were better and certain things were worse. And as many animals that the Romans put into the Colosseum, they never had the ability to tear down an entire ecosystem because they just didn't have the tools. Well, we've only had the ability to do that for, 200 years now, the Industrial Revolution. So 300 if you want to count the first sort of steam-propelled machine. Now what? In 300 years, we have done an insane amount of damage.
Sure have.
An insane amount of damage. More
now
than
we're going
before.
into space to destroy that.
Oh my God!
Well, just 100 years ago, people lived in horrible conditions in the cities. I just saw a thing the other day.
Yeah.
In New York, it was really bad.
Oh yeah.
Packed in like rats.
Oh yeah.
No running water, no electricity.
Barely a sewage system. Out
the window.
Yeah. Yeah.
100 years, maybe 150 years ago. So we've come a long way in that condition.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. But my point is, we're like kids with their father's gun. We don't know what we're doing yet. We're just playing around with this stuff. And because of we have to realize that a lot of our modalities, those things that we consider sacred, when we talk about society being an illusion, the three sort of governing forces behind that are the government, religion, and economics. Economics probably the most important, right? Because money runs everything. Governments change, people convert from religions. Yeah, those chairs at the yoga center are going to be a lot more comfortable than this.
We're on a hill, and it's like gravity's pulling me down.
Gravity's not your friend.
Yeah.
So when you consider that, when you consider the fact that government, religion, and economics were all born out of the Copper Age, and we're now in the nuclear age of digital information, government no longer responds in time. There's no amount of prayers that fix certain things anymore. You can't sacrifice virgins and start beheading your enemy and think that global warming is going to go away, right? The other thing is you can't spend your way out of this either, right? We've tried that. And the unfortunate side effect of money is greed. And even if I'm a politician or a CEO that wants to make a difference and wants to do the right thing, I'm going to want it to be done with the least subtraction from what I have, right? Even if the answer is I have to give up everything and have less, even if I have to give up half, I don't want to do that, even if it's the right thing to do.
Well, I see a lot of people, they're working,
yeah,
and they're buying things they don't need.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of that too.
We all are.
Yeah. It's like, well, why are you working so hard to buy stuff you don't need? I mean, why?
Because we've gotten wrapped up in the illusion and not the reality. The reality is you've worked, and that money symbolizes something.
Yeah, because the important things are human relationships.
And the time you have, right? So, if instead of that movie that came out with, what was it, Justin Timberlake and I forget who else was in it, called Time, where you didn't have money anymore. You had a clock on your arm, and at the end of each day, that clock would get filled up, and the uber rich basically couldn't run out of time, so they'd live forever. Whereas the poor were like struggling day to day, and if you hit zero, you died, right? And if we approached consumerism from that perspective, that you're not spending $20, but you're spending an hour of your life, or if you're working minimum wage, 3 hours of your life to buy this particular thing, that's a different value judgment.
Right. I see. It's a value.
You know?
It's like learning Tai Chi is way more valuable than a new watch.
Right.
You know, it's something that you can keep with you, and if the satellite falls from the sky, you'll still have it.
Still have your Tai Chi.
Whereas the cell phone won't work anymore.
It's gone.
Yeah.
No.
So that's more valuable. And your friends and doing things in nature. But for some reason, we got caught up thinking that material things are better, and they're not.
You're absolutely right.
When it comes to the end of the day.
Because the illusion became more important than the symbolism of the illusion.
Aha, the illusion. Right. It is an illusion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what is a watch other than rocks that could be appropriated somewhere else?
And if you really want to, you can tell the time by the sun.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you right now, it's just about lunchtime. Well, right? When it's right up. I mean, it's pretty much, it's kind of easy to tell time by the sun.
It is.
And I think in a lot of countries they do. Yeah. They don't need a watch. And it doesn't much matter if you're 5 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour off. It's still, you still have this much more daylight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you really need a watch?
Well, the only point of time is to fuel commerce. That's it.
Exactly. Because before that, it wasn't that important. You didn't need to know all the time. Like tomorrow would be fine. Yeah. Still, some countries are like that.
Oh, yeah. If you're agrarian, that's all you need to know is the sun. We wake up at dawn, and we work until noon. We break for a minute, and we work until sunset, and then we have dinner. Then we go to bed and do it again.
And we all fall for that, and we follow it.
It's part of the time and the culture that we were born in. So.
Right. It's like,
and unfortunately, it's the time and culture where the illusion has become more important than the symbol.
Very interesting time. Really, all you have is this moment. The moment before is gone. And the moment in the past has yet to come here.
Right.
So you only have this moment.
Yeah.
That's fascinating to me.
Yeah. And you always live in that moment.
In that moment.
So really, there is no past and there is no future. It just is.
Right. Now.
Yeah. That's what makes you wonder, is that why or anxiousness and depression come from focusing too much on the future or on the past?
They do.
Yeah.
Stress and all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I kind of put that watch away when I retired.
Yeah.
And I was, I got to be to work at 5 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to do this. I get home, dinner, whatever, children. But now that's all pretty much gone.
Yeah.
I don't really have to follow the clock anymore. And I see there's a big difference now in my life. It's a lot easier and no stress.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. I mean, as much as this has been a lot of hard work and dueling, teaching Tai Chi with writing, there is so less stress than when I had a boss.
Deadlines.
And arbitrary deadlines, where, because you and I, we were both in the military, and the one thing I will give the military credit for all of the crap that it takes, is it's very good at prioritizing what's important, right? Because you're dealing in life or death.
There's a field manual that tells you exactly what to do and what time to do it.
Right.
Yeah, which I kind of like.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people like it. Some won't admit it.
It was easy living.
Yeah. You knew where to put your stuff.
Right.
And what to do at a certain time. And yeah, it kind of spelled everything out for you.
But it's also a prison.
It was, but it also taught us how to structure our time and what to do with our stuff.
Right.
So it's going to be there tomorrow in the same spot.
Yeah.
I like that.
I agree.
And I know there was a lot of guys that hated it.
Hated at the
Most,
time, but
right.
yet took it out into the real world with them.
Yes,
You
yes.
know?
I think it helped me immeasurably.
Yeah.
I think it helped all young men.
I think so. I mean, as long as certainly the discipline and everything that goes into it, sure, absolutely.
Not the war aspect.
Not the war,
Not
no.
going and fighting. No,
No.
that's what it was all about. But just to, be in the military and be shown this way, it just gave you a blueprint.
Right.
That
Yeah.
at 18 or 19,
Yeah, you
I
wouldn't
needed.
have had,
I needed that.
You wouldn't
They
have had
showed you how to make your bed. They showed you how to roll your socks, and it helped.
Oh yeah,
It did.
I was such a
like
schmuck before I went into the military. And I looked at pictures. My brother found like this shoebox of pictures the other day of me at the end of high school, pre-army, and I'm just looking at oh God, it was such a schmuck.
You were a kid.
I was a kid that thought he knew everything. I hadn't seen anything. I hadn't earned anything yet, and jeez,
You were at the other edge of adolescence before you were actually an adult.
Correct.
And that was a confusing time.
Yeah.
That's where being in the military helped define it.
Help bridge that
How
gap.
should you behave? They told you how to behave.
Yeah.
Don't misbehave or there's consequences. And it just helped me a lot.
Right.
I mean, it did.
Oh yeah.
And great friendships grew out of that.
Yeah. It's the one thing I love about social media. And the one reason I won't get off is because all my Army friends are on there.
So you can connect with them through Facebook.
Yeah.
It's pretty much all through Facebook.
Oh yeah,
right?
all through Facebook. A few people through Twitter, but yeah, all through Facebook. And I don't necessarily interact with them, but it's good to know what's going on in their lives when
Right.
they have children,
Right.
when they get the new job, when they move on in their careers, when they're trying to change their lives again and trying to get back on the ball.
I enjoy Facebook for that reason, although it didn't really happen when I was in the military.
Right.
So that didn't really connect, but you still could connect with guys that were in there today. It just keeps you in touch with your friends.
Correct.
Some people say, oh, I don't like Facebook. They're stealing our data. I don't like. Well, I do.
Yeah.
I think it's a good connection.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'd rather face-to-face.
Sure.
But you can't.
Not all the
These
time.
people live far away. And so you can still connect with your friends, have a laugh, a joke, whatever, news. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Anything that makes us more connected. I think we wield it clumsily, like we wield everything. But yeah, it keeps everyone more connected. I had an Army friend. She put on a lot of weight since she got out, and finally decided, drew the line in the sand. I'm going to lose the weight, and me having done just that, and done fairly well at accomplishing my goal. Still a little bit more to go. Yeah, we had a whole conversation.
You helped motivate
I
her.
hadn't talked to her in 8 years. And suddenly, because we had that connection,
Mm-hmm.
we were exchanging information and advice was given and received. And, she gives me updates and I track her now on Facebook just to see how she's coming along.
It's a wonderful thing,
Yeah.
but it can be abused.
Sure.
If you go into a restaurant, you see 5 people sitting at a table and they're all on their phone and they're not talking, I think you're kind of abusing it.
Well, it goes back to, is it working for you or are you working for it?
Yes, it goes back to.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a wonderful thing, but you can overuse it, and you're not helping yourself. You're hurting yourself.
Exactly. And that, unfortunately, with our little monkey brains, it's hard to.
We fell right into that digital.
Let me play.
But I say keep it to a good minimum. I like to stay connected now,
Yeah.
but not 24/7. And some people I see, they're all the time, man. And like, if they have a minute, they whip out their phone, and now they're in this world. Well, this isn't the world we're in.
Correct.
This is a digital world,
Correct.
which has its place, but it's not good.
It's a world of its own. But here it goes again, right? So let's think this back to Tai Chi principle. When we're in class and we say, you can either balance yourself or you can let physics balance you, right? Work with physics or let physics work on top of you. It's one or the other, right? So the example I often give is when you're walking, you kind of throw a foot, fall, and hope you catch yourself, right? Versus in Tai Chi, we root, we lift, we place, and then we move once we have a secure footing. So as a consumer, you should know what tactics are being used against you. We know that every advertising campaign's got psychologists and doctors on it trying to better understand how the human mind works so that they can better manipulate it for advertising. So you as a consumer, and you know that your private data is being sold. We know this, we accept
and
this.
it's not just Facebook.
No, it's Google. It's everywhere.
It's out there.
Right.
It's out. If you are connected digitally, your data's out there.
Oh, it's out there.
It's out
sometimes, listen, sometimes it works for you. I found, I just went to the Marilyn Manson Rob Zombie concert. I found out about it on Facebook, because they're locked in as two of my favorite artists. Yes, this is what your Tai Chi teacher is up to.
Whoa, Marilyn Manson. Was this at the factory, electric factory?
No, it was at the E Center, actually. Or the BB&T.
Oh, the BB&T.
Yeah. Over there in Camden. I think we lost the camera. That's all right. We'll have this.
Yeah. You went to that?
Yeah.
Whoa, that's hardcore, man.
Oh, yeah. That's my daughter's pick, but let's see.
No, hey, listen.
This will still do its thing.
That's a good thing, man, to go and... That's you and her?
That's me, yeah.
With, what's
Sophia, yeah.
I mean, that was enhanced, or you did that, you made yourself up like that.
I made myself up like that.
Whoa.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's what's out there today. That's what the music is.
Right. Oh, no, not today. It's all pop and nonsense. It doesn't make you feel anything.
Well, that's mindless drivel. But for me, it was Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin, which were so far out at the time.
Right.
And I saw my son with Marilyn Manson and Rob Zombie. It's good stuff. It's a little too hard for me, but it's still good stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
But what was I was meandering about here? So I found out about that because of Facebook.
Okay.
Because they have my data and they sold it to
Because
whoever.
I didn't see that advertised.
Exactly. And I got the advertisement. We got great seats. Found out about it as soon as it was,
And it was a sold out or pretty near.
It's pretty near. It's pretty near sold out.
But I didn't hear that because I hear all the other concerts.
At the same time, I found, so at the Mann Center, they had Philly Orchestra doing the score for Gladiator, the movie. And I wouldn't have found out about that if not for Facebook. So we went to that, right? It's all right to be eclectic, right? With that said, we all know that. Sometimes it works in your favor.
Sure. And
let it work in your favor. Don't let it work you.
So they knew that you liked this type of music,
right?
And they sent you notifications.
Yeah. Rob Zombie and Marilyn Manson will be here.
But they didn't send that to me.
No, because that would be a worthless advertisement.
Right, but they knew that you were part of that scene, and it does have its advantage. Looking at it that way. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. But that's it working for me. And what I've started to do recently, one, I don't engage on Facebook anymore, or I try not to. If something comes up, and because one of the things that I found out that they realized was that things that make you angry keep you on the site, right?
Okay.
So if they can offer an opposing political view, and that's usually just through one of your friends, right? An opposing political view, you're going more than likely to engage with that person. And then you get into the comment wars, and that keeps you on the site.
Keeps you on more
advertisers and more stuff. So once you know that that's the game, because life is a game, then you don't have to play by that game anymore, right? So now I go and I talk to myself, and I see somebody. I actually have this one friend. I put him on snooze because he's just so ridiculous. But what I'll do now is I'll go to engage. I might even type a few sentences. I'll realize what's going on, delete the sentence, and just move on.
You won't get fooled again.
I won't get fooled again.
Okay.
Be a smart consumer. Allow yourself to guide your choices. Don't let your choices be guided.
But they're very good at guiding.
They are very good.
If you're not aware, because I would probably just go along with it.
But now we are aware.
Right.
We are aware. All right. Well, I think this brings us right to the hour.
That was an hour?
That was an hour.
I learned a lot. Oh, really?
Yeah. No, that was good. No, I learned a lot as well. Yeah. So, I think this is fun.
It is. Yeah. No, it is. It is.
This is fun. So we'll pick this up next time.
Absolutely.
All right, Dave. Like you said, it's lunchtime.
So we just got